Hello everyone and welcome back to another painting critique video. In this one I'm showcasing watercolor paintings created by attendees from my recent workshop where we painted this woodland scene. More on that in a minute. In this video I'll offer constructive feedback on each submitted painting, highlighting the strengths and aspects I particularly admire. I'll also suggest some small adjustments or improvements that you can consider to further enhance your watercolor skills. Now, as we see the different attendee paintings, and we're just sort of previewing them here, please bear in mind that the colors and lighting in the photos may slightly vary due to differences in cameras and lighting conditions. And also remember, there's no single right way to paint. It's always really interesting to see everyone's different take and interpretation of the same subject. My workshops are open to artists of all skill levels, from beginners to experienced painters. If you are interested in joining future workshops or exploring past sessions, please visit my events page at crowdcast.io/@timwilmot. That little email symbol TIMWILMOT. There you'll find details of the up-and-coming workshop and all the previous ones. Before we dive into everyone's paintings, let's do a quick preview of the subject, and it's a woodland scene. This is Westonbirt, the National Arboretum in the UK, and a sunny May day. We've got a winding path going through this area of the Arboretum. A number of trees, mature trees there, creating some fantastic dappled shadows across the grass and the pathway. What attracted me to this scene was really the attractive shape of those shadows, the kind of radiating lines that we've got coming out from the scene. And also the challenge of those different greens as well, different shades of green. As I say, my photo was taken in May, and so we've got some young foliage on the trees, bright greens, some evergreens in there as well, different sizes of trees, different tree trunks, textures. What I'm going to be looking for as I go through, as I review the attendees' paintings, a number of areas. First of all, composition. So the balance of the trees here, placement of the tree trunks, the placement of the pathway as well, trying to get perspective right of that pathway so that we've got the angle and the height of the viewer looks correct in the scene. Next will be, well, of course, the trees and all those different greens. Can we get some realistic effects of all of that foliage, different types of trees, and the textures of the bark as well? Then the shadows, those key shadows and their shape, the edges of those shadows. We've got some soft edges here going across the pathway. Can I find some harder edges? Well, maybe some harder edges up there, just in that middle ground area. Yeah, so shape, edges, the color of those shadows. So look at the color of the shadows going across the pathway. And then as we go on to a different surface, look at the color there. All right, so how can we portray that change of color? So green, pathway, then green again. And values as well, trying to get the shadows just that right kind of tone, that right kind of value of darkness, not too dark, not too light. Then I'm going to be looking at any artistic or creative elements that you put in. Oh, we've got the figures as well. There's a couple of figures there for reference, but we always like putting in plonking in a few figures into our landscapes to give a bit of interest and a sense of scale as well. And then lastly, I'll be looking at any different or any interesting watercolor techniques. We're going to be seeing, well, of course, we're going to be seeing wet in wet, dry brush marks, splattering as well, you would have seen in the preview, and also lifting off. Yeah, a number of different watercolor techniques. First off then, before we dive into the attendees' paintings, my painting from the workshop, which I'm fairly pleased with. I've got in, I think, a fairly decent composition with a balance of the trees. The greens are, yeah, I think I've got the brightness of the greens, trying to create that sort of early summer sunny day with the colour of the grasses. Then the shadow shapes, I've got that kind of pattern I was looking for with the horizontal shapes, the horizontal sort of angle of those shadows in that middle ground. But then as we come towards us, they're almost fanning out in quite an attractive way. So that one there is quite vertical because the sun is over there in the top right, and it's catching that side of that tree there and creating a shadow there. Edges, yep, that came out sort of all right. I've got a mixture of soft edges and hard edges. Maybe I could have gone a little bit softer with the edges across the pathway. Color of the shadows, I went with that viridian green on the grass there. The viridian green on the right, viridian green for the shadows on the left, and then in the pathway, that sort of purplish lilac color going across the path. And then the value-wise, I think is about there. Background, use a bit of dry brush mark, wet and wet again, to try and push those trees back. And maybe with some of those distant tree trunks, I went a little bit too dark. They could have been a bit lighter with some of those tree trunks, and try and connect them as well. Could have tried and connect them with the ground a little bit better. Figures, nicely placed figures. We've got that sort of windy pathway, which I accentuate a bit, and it sort of winds around and disappears off to the right. And then the tree trunks, well, our main tree trunk there, trying to get the colour of that tree trunk right. And then those kind of vertical lines with the bark, with that particular species of tree. Shades of green, I went in with some opaque green paint just to try and get the feeling of some foreground trees just obscuring the view here and there. So going in fairly thick, fairly opaquely with those leaves, and then also some litter on the ground, again using opaque paint, some of the tree litter in this bottom left hand corner, and then little light sort of blobs and a bit of darkness behind them, just trying to emphasize the direction of the light, and harder edges against those shadows as well. For example, that one there, bit of a hard edge against that shadow. That's mine then. Let's dive into the attendee paintings then one by one. First up, we've got Allah. Nice composition, good placement, good overall balance of the trees, particularly like that right-hand tree there. The texture of the bark, all these kind of transparent layers, very nice. The greens, very realistic, nice range of greens. We've got the lightness in that middle ground there. Shadows, nice pattern of shadows. You've gone for more of the, obviously you use wet and wet here in this middle area. Perhaps if they were, these individual shadow shapes were connected just a little bit more rather than individual blobs, that might be just a bit more effective. But it's come out really well. Nice range of edges, good colours. You've got a very good colour for those shadows going across the grass and the pathway and the grass on the right hand side. Figures are good. With the figures, I would say you've carefully tried to paint around them, but you're ending up with that kind of, that sort of white edge around the figures. So I wouldn't bother doing that. Just go right over the figures. The figures are dark, but good placement of figures and a bit of movement in them as well. And finally, then the foreground foliage, that's come out really well, and the debris across that foreground as well. Some white opaque marks. I think with the white opaque, maybe just a little bit more water. You've gone a bit sort of dry brush with that, so a bit too dry. But yeah, a lovely scene. Well done, Alla. And Anna. Nice composition, very bold line across, nice straight edge going across the middle there. Very bright indeed in that middle ground. That's come out well. Yeah, so nice overall composition. You've got a good range of greens. Perhaps it could be to try and give the impression of trees in that middle ground. Perhaps there could be some sort of blobs of some sort of tree there, for example, just to sort of. I know we got connecting verticals with the tree trunks, but just to kind of break up that space a bit more, and give the feeling of that sort of dense woodland, the pathway through the dense woodland. That might be a little bit better. Good shadows. Very nice shadows, actually. Good colour them, shape as well. With the shadows going across the pathway there, they're quite straight. Perhaps it could be just a little bit more curvy, and just to try and prevent those kind of straight shapes there, just to make them a little bit more curvy. You've got it a bit more. Well, it starts off all right, but then goes in this muddy bit here. We've got these sort of straight lines. I think if they were connected a bit more and had more sort of curvy shapes, that would be a little bit better. Figures are very good. Nice shape of the pathway. And your foreground debris as well. That tree there on the right-hand side. Nice shade of that tree. Good value for it as well. Yeah, a nice, bold, bright watercolour. Well done, Anna. Anthony. Right, I reckon your photo of your painting, I reckon it's a bit dark. I'm sure your painting is a bit lighter than this. Good composition. Great perspective. You've got a nice range of greens. You've gone quite cool with your greens. Maybe if they were a little bit brighter, maybe a bit more yellow, get the greens a bit warmer, that might give us some more interest. It's quite cool, give us a more interesting range of those greens, but overall really good. Then the shadows have come out really well. We've got just the right shape of those shadows. We've got that kind of fan shaped, maybe some of the shadows over the pathway here could be a little bit more dense, a bit more shadows there in that pathway, but we've got that overall shape there, good shadow color as well, and the values are spot on. With the shadow there on that, we've got quite a harsh line there. Perhaps if that was sort of blended just a wee bit, just to kind of connect them a bit more, it's quite a hard line going from that left-hand side. But yeah, everything else is fantastic, really nice. A nice tree trunk there as well. Excellent. Well done, Anthony. And Barb, nice composition. You've made the pathway maybe a tiny bit wider, and it really works because the pathways there in the arboretum, they are quite wide. So good overall balance. I like the quirky twist in this tree trunk here. That's come out really well. The greens are good. Maybe we could have gone a little bit more yellowy with some of the grass greens, but overall really good greens. Nice technique with you're exploiting the texture of the paper with the kind of middle ground and background trees there with a bit of dry brush. That's come out really well. Figures are excellent, really good figures. Yeah, good bit of movement as well. Good texture on that main tree trunk on the right. Shadows. Shadows have come out. They come out all right, actually. I think you've got those edges, particularly, it's very effective here in the bottom left-hand corner where you've got those soft edges. They've come out really well. But good colour of the shadows going across the grass, mixture of edges as well. And the value is, yeah, just right. Maybe a little bit of, tiny bit of overworking there, but overall shadows, brilliant. And then a bit of splattering. You've done a bit of splattering there in that bottom left-hand corner just to get a, I guess, to emphasize some of those, that debris and bits and pieces there in the bottom left-hand corner. Yeah, really nice. Well done, Barb and Ben. Nice composition. With your greens, your greens could be, they're quite cool. I would say go in a bit stronger with the greens. And again, I suspect a number of us went quite cool with the greens. Going a bit more, going warmer with the greens. Sign there looks a little bit odd from a perspective point of view. It would be better to try and get the, I think it's angling up just a little bit too much, and possibly just angle it down a little bit like that. So we're kind of enforcing that perspective a little bit more. With the trees in the background have come out well. Nice sort of misty look to that middle area there, and then the two figures being silhouetted against how that's come out really well. These brush marks at the top there, they're kind of a bit too perfect as regards their size and spacing. So I'd go a bit more random with your kind of brush marks there, Ben, in that top left corner. And again, go a bit stronger with those greens. Excellent tree trunk. That is a brilliant tree trunk there. You really do feel the texture of the bark. Shadows, nice shadow colour coming across the grass. And in the bottom left-hand corner here, you've got I like these autumnal leaves here. That dollop of leaves in this bottom left-hand corner, very effective. This shadow here doesn't play right. We've got like a shadow on top of a shadow. So it doesn't need, what I'm talking about is this shape here. So we don't need that there, don't think, Ben. Just go, maybe could go just a little bit darker at the bottom of that tree, these buttress roots here, just to kind of connect it a bit more with the grass around the base of the tree trunk. Yep, very nice. Thanks, Ben and Bob. Very nice indeed. Lovely composition. Immediately, I am struck by two things. The shape of those shadows, very effective. The horizontals there in the middle ground, and then that, which attracted me to the scene, that kind of radial pattern of shadows coming out. Brilliant. And the edges of those shadows as well. Nice range of greens. The background is really pushed back. You've got in that copper beech tree there in that middle ground, which is nicely contrasting with the tree trunk there. And you've sneaked in another, just to the left of the main tree trunk, you've sneaked in another one there. That's nicely placed as well. Just makes that a bit more interesting, because they are randomly spaced, these trees. They're not all equally spaced. Fantastic figures as well. Yeah, superb painting. Well done, Bob. Nice range of greens, but those two striking things: your brightness coming into the scene, that lovely light coming into the scene, and those shadow shapes and colours. Great. Well done, Bob and Carol. Nice composition. I like your greens. The greens are really effective. The background trees have come out really well. With the shadows, perhaps your shadows are, yeah, the edges are a little bit soft with your shadows. Perhaps it could be some harder edges to your shadows, Carol, just to kind of emphasize the shadow. They're almost, I guess they're almost sort of lost in a way. We haven't got that range of values. You've got the actual light hitting the grass. That's about right. That's bang on. But then we need to go darker with the shadows, and then that would help them. The shadows would help connecting the tree trunks to the base. So, for example, that one there. Let's come back out a bit. That tree trunk there, for example, that looks like it's in the sun, but if we had some shadows going across that area, so this would be all in the shade. That's gonna sort of connect that tree trunk with the ground a little bit more. You've almost got it there, but just going stronger with those shadows, right? And then that will also serve as that contrast between the darker areas and a little bit of light hitting that tree trunk. That tree trunk is excellent, really nice. Might benefit from just a few little vertical lines there just to create the texture of the bark, but all good. Going back to the shadows in the foreground, nice colour of those shadows. We've got some good edges, good handling of the wet and wet. Be tempted to put in a couple of figures there, Carol, just to give it an indication of scale. With your sign, the sign is right on that bottom edge of the grass. So I've moved that sign up so it's not, the bottom of it is not in line with where the grass meets the muddy path. So move it up there. So we've got the edge there. And also try and, if that shadow there was darker, we wouldn't have that kind of harsh transition from the grass to that muddy area. Yeah, but I do like your greens. Well done. Thanks, Carol. And Catherine. Nice composition. I like the shadow shapes. Oh, let's go back to the greens. Nice greens. Very effective greens of the grass and the shadows. The tree trunks have come out really well. With the shadow shapes, what's actually quite effective is there's a sort of line there. I'm not sure if it's that cooler green, a band of cooler green there, but I feel there's a line there. Well, maybe it's accentuated with that little twig, that little branch coming in from the right. But good shape of those shadows. Perhaps they could be a few harder edges in there, just a little bit, and maybe a bit more darkness down in this foreground area. But overall, good shadow shapes. Lovely. Let's get rid of my drawing tool. Lovely bottom to that tree trunk. That is really nice. You can certainly sense the texture of that tree trunk there. Good lost and found with the other tree trunks as well. You sneaked in another tree over there on the right. That was sort of way over on the right-hand side of the source photo. You moved it into the left. Well done. Figures are sort of lost. A bit. I reckon those figures go in a bit darker with those figures, but overall they're placed all right. Got a sense of movement, but yeah, just go a bit darker with those figures. Yeah, nice one, Catherine. Thank you very much. And Ching. Good composition. Nice greens. These greens are very, very good indeed. Perhaps it could be just a little bit more yellow in them, but overall, really, really good. I mean, I think your greens are close to mine, actually. So nice. So I can't be too critical. Nice value for the lighter greens and the darker greens. We got the sense of the background woods as well. Good placement of the tree trunks. Nice tree trunk here on the right. Nice little bit of a lean to it. Good figures as well. Shadow shapes. They are very nice indeed. Maybe could have gone. No, I think the value of the shadows is just right, and the colour of them as well is brilliant. The edges could be just a little bit softer, just a tiny bit softer here, A bit like mine, I went a tiny bit too too hard with my edges going across the pathway. But yours, yeah, yours likewise. It could be just a little bit softer. Nice debris across the foreground there. Yeah, a beautiful scene. Nice tree trunk. Nice branches and twigs coming in from the right just to fill in that space there. Yeah, excellent. Well done, Ching. Christy, nice composition. I like the feeling of a bit of a, rather than that flat landscape in the middle ground, we've got a bit of a sort of hump going on with that rise there. It goes into a little bit of dip, goes up there. Yeah, very nice. Nice bit of cool in the background. Nice range of greens. Perfect warm, bright green for the grass in the middle ground. Shadows, nice shadow shapes. You've done very well with the wet in wet. Perhaps could be just a little bit darker with those shadows going across the pathway. I think the value of the shadows going across the grass, that is just right. And the colour of those shadows as well, perfect. Figures, brilliant. They're going in the distance, just the right size and position. Tree trunk, yeah, tree trunks come out really well. Yeah, a nice bit of debris in the foreground. I like that main branch coming in there from the right, going across the main trunk. Yeah, very nice indeed. Thanks, Christy. And Claire. Let me just zoom in a little bit on this one. Claire, nice composition. I quite like the way that you've done the top half, those different brush marks, very sort of confident brush marks. With the tree trunks, the main tree trunk is okay, but the ones on the left, they're a bit sort of dark, and I think maybe the brush shape didn't give us sort of any, they're quite round, the edges, rather like you just sort of touch the paper, then lift off, touch the paper. So maybe just get the feeling of that kind of rectangular shape as we see different parts of the tree trunk. But nice range of greens, really nice greens. With the shadows, just a slight overworking. I think the shadow colour going across the grass is good. Like some previous people, just try and connect the tree trunks that are sort of in the sun. Just try and connect them with the ground a bit more with that shadow there. For example, that tree trunk there, connect it with the shadow. That one's okay. This one's okay. Yeah, going back to the shadows in the foreground, yeah, just a little bit overworking. I think if you had some harder edges in there and more of that sort of, we've got the pattern of the shadows going across the grass, but try and continue that across the pathway. They're just sort of, at the moment, they're just sort of shapes across the pathway. And I think if we tried to connect them right, that sort of lace type pattern, that would be just a little bit better. But lovely greens. I do like those brush marks in the background. Figures are good. Yeah, figures are good. Again, with the light around the figures, we don't need that light. Just go over. Those figures are darker than, or generally darker, maybe not that left-hand one, but generally darker than the background behind them. So just paint over the paper, all right? Don't leave that sort of white area around it. Thanks very much, Claire. Excellent. And Colin. Good composition. The background has come out really well. Good range of greens as well. Shadows. Shadows could be tiny bit darker on the grass, and the edges possibly just a little bit harder with the edges. I think that edge there is better, and the value, we're getting the right way with the value there. But in the other areas, just try and go in a little bit darker and a bit harder with the edges as well. Shadows going across the pathway, they're just a nice color, really nice color, good edges as well, hardish edges on the pathway, and then we're going into those soft edges in the bottom left-hand corner. That's come out really well. The main tree trunk, good, yeah, excellent. And the debris in the bottom left-hand corner. You haven't done any figures. Oh, I like the way the path, we can just see the pathway, which I think you could do in the source photo, that pathway just meandering off to the right-hand side. Good feeling of a journey. Just crying out for a couple of figures, though, in there, Colin. Excellent, yeah. At the top of your painting, we've got, see if I can come down, we've got these little gaps. I would take the paint over the edge so that, unless you were going to crop this, just for continuity, try and make it more dense in the top there rather than just these leaves here, the foliage being there almost like in mid-air. Just continue it up to the very top of the page and over the page as well if you've got any, if your painter's your paper's been taped down. Nice brush marks in that top right corner. Really nice indeed, and that angle coming down as well. Nice brush marks of the other twigs and branches as well. Thanks, Colin. And Dorothy. Nice composition. Good range of greens. Very good range of greens. And a nice blue cool green for those distant trees. Good shadows coming across. Try and connect them again a little bit more with those shadows in the distance. Maybe they're a little bit too dark, but try and connect them as well as we sort of traverse over that middle ground. Good figures there, connecting the tree trunks with the shadows there and there. Nice shadows in the middle ground coming towards the foreground. Just be careful of that sort of shadow on top of a shadow there, Dorothy. I think the value, that green there is probably dark enough, I reckon. Could go a little bit darker in the middle, but not with these hard edges, not like a shadow on top of a shadow, if you see what I mean. So the green shadows either side of the pathway, very good. Try and the shadow as it crosses the pathway, lovely brush marks, by the way, there. But just try and connect on the left there. So we've got that shadow shape going across. That's the top of the shadow shape. That's the bottom shadow shape. Just continue that on over to the right. So a lot of this would be in the shade, but maybe with just a few little sort of elliptical gaps. Just try and connect left and right a little bit more. Nice edges though. We've got the soft edges, beautiful, and just the right value as well. Yeah, and good. Let's zoom in on the figures. Good figures. Just be careful of the heads being a little bit too big on that right-hand one. Maybe that left-hand one, just have an arm or two there, just to complete it. Yeah, very nice. Love the background blue though. Thanks, Dorothy. And Eduardo. Good composition, Eduardo. The nice range of greens with the blue at the top there. Good transparent layers as well. Just be careful of not overworking it too much. Maybe a little bit more there. Edge-wise, try and get in a nice light edge in the distance. So like a harder edge between the dark shadows, the darker greens, and the lighter grass, the sunlight coming across. The main shadows, though, yeah, I think they've actually come out quite well. I like the sort of the flow. There's a bit of movement in your shadows, particularly on that left-hand side there. like that line there, the line above it, gives a bit of movement. Again, we're just on the edge of maybe overworking it just a little bit too much. But overall, I like the effect that you've got. Perhaps it could be just a feeling of light in some of these lighter areas that are a lighter grass. We've almost got it there, all right, but maybe if that was replicated on that left-hand side. And also you've got like this light bit here. You kept it light, but then you've gone in with that darker yellowy green on top, but left a sort of white edge around it. I'm not sure if that reads quite correct. Nice tree trunk there on the left. Again, like, was it Collins? Again, continue your foliage up above the paper just for continuity. So we've got, for example, there's a bit of a canopy there. So almost cover up the sky there just to give the feeling of that. The lower parts of the canopy coming down. Yeah, but nice range of greens. Lots of soft edges, a lot of softness there. Thanks, Eduardo. And Eileen. Good composition. Nice range of greens as well. Lights, greens, dark greens. Maybe we haven't got the feeling of, I don't know, have we got the feeling of the grass, the meadow, left and right of the lane? I think if we had some more horizontal, lighter bands in their island, we just get a bit more of the feeling of that flat area there in that middle ground and the foreground. But good range of greens, nice placement of the tree trunks. Just be careful of going around the tree trunks. You've got a bit of lightness on the left-hand side. So those shadows, nice shadow colour, by the way, that is a perfect shadow colour. But I would connect the shadow, that you've got this light patch there. Just cover that up, all right? Taking the shadow, meet with the left-hand side of the trunk. Good figures, nice figures there. Maybe just perhaps a bit of a shadow underneath might be nice. And then the rest of the shadows are really good. Yeah, I like the shadows coming across. Nice. It's a nice sort of repetition of brush marks, top and bottom. The top with all of those leaf, the vegetarian shapes, and then they're kind of almost replicated with the shadow shapes in the foreground. Yeah, well done, Eileen. And Engin. Good composition. We've got a nice horizontal layer of grass in the distance. Nice brush marks, lots of lively brush marks in this one. These 4 tree trunks here, they're a little bit sort of equally spaced. Try and make them a bit more random, and or the placement in the landscape or distance from us. So, for example, we could have a tree trunk there, but then if you want to have another one there, make it further away so the base of it is there, and then maybe another one sort of there. Do you see what I mean? Just try and make them a bit more random. So good range of greens. We could go a little bit brighter, warmer with the yellowy grass. We've got it almost there in the distance, but continue that through to the foreground. Nice shadow colours, shapes. So I would continue the shadow over the edge of the paper. Again, the foliage at the top, continue over the edge of the paper for continuity. You've got these 2 main tree trunks here. I guess that sort of works. I would, yeah, and you've got a good texture on the barks there. Maybe not so much of with these sorts of trees, not so much of these horizontal lines, and just ease off on the white paint just a little bit. But a nice lively scene. Well done, Engin. And Fritz. Oh, I like this. This is different. I'm immediately struck by the warmth in this foreground here. That is splattering, isn't it? That's a splattering of a cad orange or something like that. I'll come back to that in a minute. Yeah, really nice shadows in the foreground. Good composition. You excellent range of greens. Perhaps it could go a little bit more, bit brighter, a bit warmer with the lighter green, but a nice range of greens and tree shapes as well. We've even got in, I don't think anyone else has done this, but that conifer there in that middle ground, that conical conifer and different shapes going on. Yeah, good range of greens. Nice placement of tree trunks. You've gone a little bit, I like that tree trunk there on the left. Beautiful. With all the different colours in the bark, the cools and the warms. Very natural looking. But I think the star of the show, have we got some figures? Maybe there's some figures there. I think the star of the show, your shadows, they're brilliant. I really do like the way you've done the foreground. I think you've done a little bit of lifting off and a bit of combination of lifting off and layers as well, but very delicate layers. They're not too, each layer is not a lot darker than the layer below. It's been very effective the way that you've done that. You've spent a bit of time doing it and thinking about the shape of those shadows. It's ended up a really good result, and we've got that sort of fan type pattern of shadows as well. Even that one there. Thanks, Fritz. And let's just check if I missed one. No, Jean. Let's zoom into Jean's. Good composition. I like that green. That's a lovely green. That's a perfect green for the light areas of the grass. Good range of greens then. Good feeling of the background trees as well. On the left, I don't know whether we need some sort of continuation of the shadow. It kind of, that ends abruptly there. This one ends abruptly there. I think to get the feeling of the canopy above, just continue that shadow or the darker greens there. Doesn't need to be too precise because we're on the left-hand side, so we can go a little bit abstract with those greens. Just be careful of a shadow on top of a shadow there, but the shadow color for the greens and going across the pathway just right. Lovely wet in wet on the pathway there. Yeah, that's come out quite well. Maybe here in certain places the paper was perhaps just no, I think it's just right actually. I think I was going to say the paper surface might have been just a bit too damp when you went in with a dark shadow color, but I think you're all right. Those edges there. Yeah, oh, and figures. Very good figures. They are just the right size. Bit of movement as well. Brilliant. And the shape of the curve of that pathway going in the distance. Yeah, nice one, Jean. Thank you. And Joe. Right, immediately struck by your very standout shadow shapes going across the scene, sort of emanating from that top right corner. You've moved the horizon up a little bit, which I think works actually. We've got so Joe's put his horizon up there. That works. Nice background. Good range of greens. The green in the bottom left-hand corner, that could be just a little bit. It's quite cool, quite light with that green in that bottom left-hand corner there, Joe. Maybe that green that you've got there, I think that should be continued down the bottom left-hand corner. Good figures. And yeah, really bold shadow shapes coming across the scene. And going the bottom left-hand corner. With the shadows, possibly, could we try and connect them a bit more? Could there be just a little bit more light? You've done a bit of lifting off, that's good, but maybe just a little bit more light in this foreground here, just a tiny bit more. Yep, it's come out really well. Yeah, well done, Joe. Thank you. Kazim, excellent, very nice composition. You're the in that top third, the way that you've created these different shapes of green is very effective. We've got the feeling of so many different species of trees in there. For example, that round tree there, the shadowy shape of a conifer there, then coming over the right, these shapes of the groups of trees there, very nice. So love the composition, the shadow shapes as well. Again, very effective. The way that you're sort of coming across the scene and those little bumps, we're getting really getting the feeling of the contour of the pathway, and then going over to the greenery on the right hand side. Let's just zoom into the greenery over here. Yeah, so many different greens going on. I like the way that you've added on a little bit of opaque paint there. It was a little bit cooler over on the right end. Wasn't sure what was happening to the grass, maybe some wildflowers or something like that. But yeah, nice cool greens over there. Good mixture of edges. The shadows are brilliant. And then what's very effective is the debris that you've placed on top. Really good. You spend a bit of time with that. You've been very patient with those lighter blobs of paint and then a bit of dark shadow behind them. Really makes that kind of stand out on top of the surface. Good figures as well. Yeah, well done, Kazim. And Leslie. Right, nice composition. I like the way that you've placed the greenery there. These kind of shapes where your paint's very wet and you've placed it on the paper after you've done the background, looks like. So there's two or three layers here. And that, I mean, this is sort of a nice watercolor technique or effect with that placement of those blobs, then just leaving it, not mucking about with it, leaving it. Almost like a splattering effect. If I zoom into this area here, that's really nice, all of that. These sort of abstract, roundish shapes. So nice greens, maybe a little bit busy in the middle ground, but we've got that feeling of that fan type shape of those shadows coming out. Perhaps the shadows in the lower part just a little bit overworked and tiny bit too dark here, I reckon, on the border, that right hand border. Don't think we need it. I think the transition from the green to the light of the pathway, that would suffice. Yeah, good figures, especially the left-hand figure. Yeah, they're two good figures there. Maybe that the head there, possibly a little bit too dark, sort of brings it forwards a bit, and sign here, a bit overworked around the edges, but it's all right. Is this white paint? I don't think we need the white paint there, by the way. Don't think we need that there. Yeah, but really nice. Yeah, that's quite different. I do like those brush marks, though, particularly zoom in again, or that area there. However you did that. No, that's excellent. Very, very sort of abstract, lovely, attractive shapes. Right, Lillian. Oh, very soft. Zoom in here. Now, Lillian's gone wide on this one. Very wide. Nice panoramic view. This is beautiful. Yeah, a good range of greens. Nice, very nice composition. Again, I think like Kazim, we've got a feeling of the different species of trees. That round one there. This one here, that more sort of oaky type tree. That one there. Feeling of depth in the distance as well. Dry brush mark in abundance here, for example, on that middle ground. That figure there, standing out with a bit of lightness against it. The shadows, the soft shadows as well. Soft shadows coming across the scene. Trying to connect also these sort of faint lines here, connecting that shadow with that shadow. And we've got that radiating pattern of shadow shade as well. Excellent. Very nice painting. Well done, Lillian. And Linda. Right, I think the photo might be at a slight angle, but it's all right. Good composition. The nice range of greens as well. Beautiful colour for the lighter green. Not sure about the figures. They're a little bit sort of squat. I think they could be a little bit narrower, maybe a bit taller in that scene. Nice trees on the right hand side. Shadows, nice colour for maybe that one, maybe that shadow going across the grass a tiny bit too dark. The ones on the right, they are good. Nice shadow coming across the street, the lane, the street as well. Perhaps some of these shadows could be, you've got this angle here, perhaps they could be just a little bit more horizontal in that area there to emphasize, or well, to emphasize the levelness of the path, but also to connect that side. They're kind of horizontal with the horizontal shadows there. So horizontal there, but then here maybe we can start to go that sort of shape there. But lovely greens. And I like the shapes of your foliage in the top. That's very effective. Not overly done. Nice twigs coming in from the right. Nice confident brush marks. Nice softness around those tree trunks as well. Excellent. Well done, Linda and Lynn. Nice composition. Like a previous painting, you've got a nice sense of a bit of contour of the land, particularly on that right-hand side. Good position of the pathway. You put a little bit more on the right, I guess, than some of us. Good range of greens, very nice indeed. I like this sort of arching tree here. Not sure if it's coming from a branch in the foreground or whether it's a sort of shrub in the middle, but I like that sort of, almost like a layer there on that left-hand side with those brush marks, nice brush marks, shapes of the trees, the foliage in the top part of the scene. Good tree trunks as well. With the shadows, shadows are good going across the grass. Maybe they need to stand out just a little bit more. I like the wetting wet here, but maybe they could stand out, or harder edges of the shadows in that middle ground there, Lynn, just to just again connect the left-hand side with the right-hand side and get this sort of radial pattern of shadows. But down here, all of these shadows here, brilliant. And the debris standing out as well, bit of opaque green, excellent, bit of shadow behind them. Nice figures as well. Bit of movement in the figures. Thanks, Lynn. Very nice painting. And Margaret. Right, Margaret. Well, we've definitely got a focal point here, haven't we, with the two figures walking towards us with the dog. Nice play. Just be careful of something, your focal point there being right in the middle. I guess it sort of works with this because left and right of the focal point is quite different. The placement of the tree trunks, and we've got this dark foliage coming down from the right-hand side. Yeah, so you changed the scene a bit, and it works for me. We've got the sense of depth in the distance as well with the distant trees. Nice placement of the tree trunks in a random pattern. And nice shadow shapes. You haven't gone for that radial pattern, but it's a nice sort of atmospheric, soft woodland scene with that sense of depth in the distance. With the figures, yeah, the figures are good. Not sure about the guy's right leg, but overall really good. Yeah, really nice figures. Sign could be just a bit more to the right, possibly. Very soft. Good range of greens as well, that dark green top right corner, the yellowy warm greens there in the middle. Yep, excellent. Thank you, Margaret. Nice range of shapes. Right, Maria. Squarish format. Good composition. With the perspective, if we got that lane going narrower in the distance, we've got a sort of equal width as we come down here, Maria. But I think if we'd have gone a little bit narrow in the distance, then come round and then go emphasize the width here, we'd get more of a feeling of the perspective. Try and get a harder edge as well at the base of those trees in the background and then the light green. That would try and, again, I think try and push things back. Nice green there. Good range of greens. Continue the foliage over the top though, all right? With the shadow shapes, rather than these angular shapes like there, for example, there, go for more horizontals of those shapes, the shapes of the shadows, and try and connect them just a little bit more as well, connecting the tree trunks like that one there. I've said it before and a few others, but try and connect that tree. So yeah, so go with, let's come back out of it. So go with more horizontal shadow shapes in that middle ground area. And then as we come down, we're going more like this. So rather than these separate little shapes, try and connect them more and try and get the overall impression of that radial pattern. But yeah, well done for going with a square form. I think that really works actually. A nice balance to it as well. Nice tree trunk also. The actual value of his shadows are spot on with that dark green. The dark green shadow, that is just right. With the figures, get a bit of shadow below the figures. Thanks, Maria. And just a quick mention, my event site is here where you can see all of the previous workshops. You can still take part in those if you want to, just sign up and then email me a photo of your painting for an individual video critique, but loads in there. A few Patreon only events that I run for my Patreon members, but quite a few public workshops as I call them, and that's where you can sign up for future ones. And also if you subscribe to that event site, you will get notifications of up and coming workshops. Hope to see you on the next one. And Marilyn, I like the composition. Nice range of greens. They're very nice. I love that green that you've got there. Distant trees and the grass as well. With the shadows, possibly could go a bit darker with the shadows. You've got it, you're almost there with the shadow value in that middle ground, but over here could go a bit darker, I reckon, just to get that more of a contrast, more of an impact with those the shadows against the light. And then try and get some harder edges. You might have gone in a bit too soon with your darker shadows here on that damp surface. So down here in the bottom right hand corner, that's nearly worked, but over here perhaps we could get a few more harder edges going across that pathway there. Now I'm just thinking about this shape here. It goes up a little bit. I think it would look better. We've got that's quite a nice edge coming down there to that tree trunk, and then reappears on the other side of the tree trunk down to the pathway, but just continue that line across there and connect with the rest of the shadow going over to the right. And likewise down here, maybe we could get a bit lighter in that area there. So again, sort of another area of light going over the scene. Good value though of the shadow on the pathway. I like the tree trunk there on the right. Nice and cool grey sort of bark. Overall good tree trunks, lost and found there. Excellent. Good figures as well. They're really good figures, especially that left hand one. Yeah, very nice indeed. Well done, Marilyn and Mark. Right, nice composition. You've moved so you've got the pathway going over to the left. I think that works. We've got more of the right-hand side here to fill in. Good placement of the tree trunk there. In the middle ground, I reckon the grass here. See, so the grass on the left, I reckon that's the right kind of value for the grass on the left. Just ease off on that. As I'm zooming in, I can see that opaquish white painted pink. Don't need it. But going back to the grass, that's a nice value there. I think on the right hand side you might have gone a bit darker. So did you go in with the light grass and you decide to make the lighter bits a bit darker, if you see what I mean? Yeah. Bit heavy handed with the shadows though. We've gone quite dark here. It's almost like maybe 2 or 3 layers there. So keep those shadows fresh, all right? Those figures, while we're here, those figures are excellent, really, really good. Just the right size, moving away from us, walking into the scene. Yep, that works well. Perhaps that shadow there, where the figures are, that could be continued over. So try and connect these different shadow shapes a bit more. But we've got the pattern. We've got the overall pattern of that radial pattern of shapes, particularly in the foreground there. Yeah, just a bit of overworking in a few places. Possibly the canopy, the leaves in the top could be a little bit denser, and you're using a bit of dry brush technique. I would go in. I mean, the kind of consistency you've got. The thickness of the paint that you use for the background trees, use that for the foreground trees, the canopy coming down, if you like, right above us. Yeah, nice. What I mark and Mary. Yeah, nice. Lovely composition. Certainly got the feeling of that light band going across the middle there. Figures might be just a little bit lost. Perhaps the 2 figures there, the right-hand one could have a little bit of highlighting, or could have lighter clothing, but good placement of the figures, good shape of the lane as well. Shadows just a little bit too dark, but you've done well to connect them all. Nice shadow shapes and edges to those shadows as well. For example, here, the softness that you've got there, that's a really nice shadow going across there, disappears behind the main tree, reappears here, connects with the 2 figures. We're connecting things. Nice. Yeah, just a little bit too dark there, I reckon. And then the shadows coming across the path, that's come out really well. We've got that sort of lacy feeling of those the shadow shapes and the little areas of light, the dappled shade. The sign is pretty much lost, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I do like. I particularly like this. I particularly like that top right corner there, Mary. That's very effective. Thank you. Thanks, Mary and Maxine. Right, a nice, bright, bold watercolor is really bright. Good range of greens, nice composition. Very loose with your application of the paint. Those brush marks, particularly all over the place. We've got hard edges in the top, lots of soft edges in the bottom. This is excellent. I love it. That tree trunk there, let's zoom into that tree trunk. We've got some warms and cools in that. The little thin marks that you've made, I presume, with a rigger brush, very effective across the scene. Figures are really good, excellent, bit of movement, well placed, particularly one on the left. Sort of striding out. And then those shadow shapes, those horizontal shadow shapes going across, but particularly a bit like, was it Fritz? That kind of shape of those shadows going across that. You've got a little bit of a hump to it, which I think is very attractive, that kind of hump there. A bit of a hump here, a bit of a curve there. Yeah, and also you've probably got a bit more probably got a bit more sky showing than most of us. I think that really works. A bit more of a sort of open, bit more of an open canopy to it. Yeah, very nice. Well done, Maxine. Nydia. Nice composition, good range of greens, and also that lost and found as well. Good watercolor technique that a number of you have shown. For example, here there's tree trunk. So the tree trunk emerges from the ground, and it's obscured by a bit of foliage, then reappears. Then we've got another band of foliage. It sort of takes some thinking out, to plan those, the kind of where these tree trunks appear and disappear. But that's worked really well. Nice arching tree there on the left-hand side. Good range of greens. The shadow shapes are really good. Perhaps we could go a little bit darker in this bottom left-hand corner, but you've got a good range of edges. Nice soft edges there, harder edges going across the pathway. The shadow color on the pathway, perfect. Good figures, really good figures, especially, well, they are both good. And also, when you do two figures, think about not having them too identical, like sort of synchronized walking. Have the leg configurations different. So they are definitely different. They're two really good figures, Lydia. Yeah, a lovely scene. Yeah, well done, Lydia. And Peter. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Nice composition. You've gone quite light with this. We've got a lot of sort of middle values. I like the brush marks of that you've made with the leaves in the top and the shadows down the bottom. Maybe we could connect them just a little bit more rather than these separate sort of blobs, like you've done, like that shadow there in the bottom right hand corner. That, in my opinion, that shadow shape there, its angle, the edges, is a lot better than over on that left hand side. If you'd have gone perhaps the edges on the left hand side here, Peter, just a little bit too hard, I reckon. And also connect the shadow here. So this, for example, this shadow here, shadow shape there, stops. Then we've got that light area, then a tree trunk, and then a gap, and then it reappears. So maybe, like you've done here, connect it, all right? But try and get some more. We've got lots of long shapes like that, but try and connect them horizontally, so to speak. Could desperately need some figures there. Nice range of greens though. Yeah, but I do like that bottom right hand corner. That's really effective. Well done, Peter. And Paul. Excellent composition. You've got that feeling of a bit of a slope coming down from the right, which I actually quite like. It's not like that there. It's quite flat, the landscape, but I think that's really nice, that sort of slope coming down, and then we've got a bit of a dip here in the middle with the pathway, and then it goes up here on the left. The good range of greens, nice colour for the grass. Perhaps you could have gone a little bit warmer with the green, but the shadow shapes are very effective. I like the way that you've done the shadows, especially over the pathway. That I don't know whether you've I guess you've painted on a damp surface, but you've gone in quite light, quite delicately, so that it just a little light touch on the paper, and you create this very soft sort of shadow, a lighter shadow. Yeah, it's come out really well. Darker shadow down here in the bottom right hand corner. The figures are all right, but just be careful of the heads being a little bit too large. I detect just a little bit. That tree trunk there is beautiful. The colours that you've got, that cooler shadow on the right hand side, then going a little bit warmer in the middle. That is really nice. That's sort of almost like an opaque layer as well. Very effective. These the branches here, a little bit too dark and also a bit too thick as well. The ones on the left, a bit better. Yeah, well done for reinterpreting the scene there. Thanks, Paul. Ravi. Nice composition. Good, strong horizontal there across that middle ground. Nice, good range of greens as well. That blue-green in the distance really pushes it back. And good range of greens in the upper portion of the painting as well, connecting with the top. Placement of the tree trunks. The shadow shapes are very good. With the shadow color here, I would go in with a darker green there. It's almost like that shadow area there, Rav, is almost like the same color value as the shadows going across the pathway. Really, it needs to be this sort of darker, cooler green. Nice bits of light showing through. Beautiful shape of those shadows as well. Excellent. Yeah, well done. Right, and we have Richard next. Oh, very nice indeed. Splattering, of course. What's effective here? Normally I pick people up on this, but that light edge around the pathway and the light edge around the tree trunk, it's almost like they're glowing. Particularly around, I think it's very effective on that pathway, the way that you've got it sort of going around to the right. So very creative. And then connecting all of these different foliage shapes here. Let's just look at, particularly on the left-hand side, where you're trying to, when you look at the source photo, it's so complicated, but I think this is a nice way of unraveling that and making it simpler by just thinking about these shapes and connecting them all together and doing what watercolor does. So laying down a little bit of, or quite a bit of paint here, but then that bit of splattering on top, controlled splattering, and the angle of that splattering as well. It's almost like, I guess, Richard, you were splattering it from that bottom right-hand corner. It looks like that shape there. Some shapes here, horizontal, a little bit at a sort of 45-degree angle. But nice composition, the placement of the tree trunk there. Oh, just crying out for a couple of figures in here, Richard. The range of greens are spectacular. Very nice. That yellowy green there. The green for the shadow as well. We've got the soft edge below, hard edge above, connecting with the tree trunk. These shapes going across the pathway, really good also. Look at that light there. It's like really bright sunlight coming towards us. So that edge of the pathway made the sign, you made the sign dark rather than light. Well done. Not so sure about the splattering in the bottom right-hand corner. It almost looks like, to me, it almost looks like a bush or a shrub coming up, which I guess it could be, couldn't it? We could have the pathway go around to the left there, and then there could be a sort of shrub filling in that bottom right-hand corner. That's what it is. And a nice sort of, almost like a autumnal shade to that as well. Yeah, very effective use of watercolor and that splattering and laying down those shapes and just letting watercolor do what it wants to do. Right, Robbie. Good composition. I like your figures. I'm zooming in especially to those figures, especially that right-hand figure. With the figure, don't think we need to line the figures as well, but nice figures. Good composition, good range of green, lovely range of greens. I like the way that the shadow shapes, it's really nice, almost like a sort of stained glass window effect in that middle ground. But the shadow shapes are almost emanating from the middle there. We've got the horizontals here, but then almost we've got this sort of light area in the middle there. And then we've got these shadow shapes coming out from that light area there as well. Yeah, I like that. I like that pattern. The nice sign, good tree trunk, lost and found with the other tree trunks. But those greens are brilliant, and that warmth of the pathway, the warmth of the shadows as well. Very nice. Well done, Robbie. Thank you. And Roger. Right. Different technique here. You've used a sort of dry brush mark for the leaves in the top. It's very effective. Good composition. We've got a sense of the scale with those figures. Yeah, they are. They are. Well, they're probably almost like the size of the figures in my source photo. Really gives a sense of scale of the trees. Love the way you've done the tree trunks. I also like these dry brush marks. You're kind of exploiting the surface of the paper. Perhaps it could be a little bit more of a harder edge as those background trees connect with the middle ground. For example, here, could they be a little bit better with that harder edge, with the base of those trees? So a harder edge there. So dark and then the light. I think your shadows, they're all right. They're sort of in line with the feeling of the scene. I'm standing back now looking at the scene. I think there could be some darker shadows on the grass. I think that would be a little bit more effective and a harder edge to those shadows as well. But you've got that kind of radial pattern of those shadows there brilliantly. Really good. And that one there. I like that bit of light that you've got in there. Hard edge, soft edge. And then these leaves in the bottom right corner across the foreground. Really good. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, so maybe just a little bit darker with the shadows going across the grass. But I like the technique that you've used there for the background trees and that foliage. Also, I like these tree trunks here, where you just gone round the outside of the tree trunk, I reckon. So you laid down the colour of the tree trunk itself, but then just bordered it, went round the edges slightly with a bit of darker paint. Very effective. Sandra. Yeah, nice composition. Nice, strong, hard edge to the middle ground and then the background. Nicely framing that dark copper beech, framing the lighter tree here. A bit of a soft edge as well against that. So nice composition. Good range of greens. I like your marks as well for the top part of the scene, all that foliage. Perhaps it could be a little bit denser with the foliage just to give a bit more context to the shadows going across. Good shadow color and values. Perhaps could be just a tiny bit darker for the darker green, but excellent shadows coming across the pathway there. This one is perhaps a little bit too dark here. Some of these shadow shapes are a bit too dark before it hits. It's got a contrast between that lighter, softer shape. So just try and connect them a little bit more, I reckon, there if you could. But down the bottom right corner, that is really nice. Or that whole area here is excellent. Really, really nice, Sandra. Yeah, good figures as well. Well done. And Sarah. Beautiful greens and nice brush mark shapes. Good composition, got the meandering path, excellent figures. Figures connected with a shadow, brilliant. Tree trunks connected with a shadow. Also different top edge of the shadow as well. We've got some grassy stuff, some twiggy stuff coming out from that shadow. Good range of soft edges, excellent range of greens. The way that you've done the foliage in the top part here, these kind of marks, that kind of quick, almost like a tick mark, very quickly. I guess with a a sword brush or something like that, or a rigger brush, but fully loaded. Very, very nice range of greens and the shapes of that foliage as well. Shadows, brilliant. Perhaps could be a little bit softer, Sarrow, with the edges in the bottom left-hand corner. Nice edge there. Tree trunk, possibly the tree trunk could be tiny, tiny bit darker, just a little bit darker. But the overall sense of light, the freshness, really bold, and also the edges that you've got. I guess you, a bit like me, use a flat brush to try and create those shapes in the distance there, with a hard edge, a flat horizontal edges at the bottom, then flicking that flat brush up, and lovely light there in that middle. Yeah, well done, Sarah. And Shiva Kumar, very soft, good composition. Perhaps we could have a little bit more light going across the middle to try and sort of split them out. I do like the way that you've done the background trees there. We've got just the right value for those cooler greens in the distance. And soft edges as well, very sort of misty feel, but it would be nice to have a little bit of light coming across the middle. You've got the light in places like around that tree trunk there, and that light there. So that green there, and I think I saw a bit over on the right hand side, this bit creeping in here from the right. If that was, and we've got a bit there as well, if that was across, so if there was areas of light going across, we'd create more of a sort of impact there. The dark background trees, and then these shadows starting to come across the scene. Nice shadows coming across. I would go in a little bit overworked here in the middle. Again, I think we get more of an impact if we had a bit more light coming into some areas there in that area here. Yeah, just a tiny bit overworked there. Good figures as well. Heads could be a little bit larger. Yeah, but overall, I like the background trees though. They're really good the way you've done those. Yeah, we just need a bit more light. Need a bit more light coming to the scene and just ease off on the overworking of some of those shadows. Right, Vicente. Nice composition. Good range of greens. We've got, well, I can zoom in here. We've got some brown autumnal greens creeping in there. Nice figures. You've gone quite thick with the paint, which I know is your style. I can see the texture of the paper as well, exploiting that. Yeah, nice composition, quite lively. I'm not sure if we got the shadow shapes. The shadows might be just a little bit overworked in a few places, and also the angle of those shadows as well. Well, we've got the horizontals coming across the middle there. That's really good, and then right-hand side there, left-hand side there. But these shapes here, they're sort of coming down. I think they need to be a bit more, in that area there, Vicente, need to be a bit more horizontal. And then around about here, this is where we start to come down a little bit, all right? But you got the edges, you got the wet in wet, okay. Nice bit of lightness down here. Could be a little bit warmer with the colour of the grass, like a bit like that yellow on that right-hand side. But nice range of colours. Yeah, well done. Well, Vicente's is the last one. Hopefully you enjoyed that review, a preview of our workshop of the woodlands at Westonbirt National Arboretum in the UK. Thanks for watching, and I will catch up with you on the next workshop. So go up to the website and either my website or the event website to sign up. Love to see you take part on a future workshop. Thanks for watching. Speak to you on the next one. Bye-bye.